And away we go. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is a wonderful Monday, a beautiful weekend of NBA basketball in the books. My name is Sean Barnard, here with my guy Sam Ostry to break it all down right here on Fox Sports The Gambler. Appreciate everyone tuning in right here on socials, over on the iHeartMedia app, or anywhere else you are listening. We got plenty to dive into. We've seen, unfortunately, a terrible injury to Damian Lillard to put a nightcap on things last night. We've seen the Lakers fall down to 3-1 at the hands of the Minnesota Timberwolves with J.J. Redick playing the starters the entire second half. We saw the Detroit Pistons suffer a brutal loss in that game, and one of the closest game winners I've ever seen in my life during that Denver Nuggets victory over the Los Angeles Clippers. So here with my guy Sam to break it all down. Sam, how we doing on this fine Monday morning?
I'm great. It does not get better than this past weekend of hoops. These playoffs have been maybe the best first round series I can ever remember. Last year was competitive too, but the parity in the NBA right now has created just phenomenal series and phenomenal games. Even like a Magic Celtics series, which we won't talk about too much because there's a lot of other stuff to get to. But even that series has produced awesome games. And that's a 2-7 matchup that everyone thought was just Celtics would take care of easy. And they'll win the series, but they've been competitive games. So these playoffs have been as good as you could possibly get. And just the physicality and intensity that you're seeing in the playoff games and the real like hatred and animosity too. Like you're seeing almost every single one of these games and series has had moments where the teams need to be separated. And there's been that chippiness and that competitiveness. And this is as good as it gets for a first round series. So let's talk about it.
Yeah, I'm totally with you. That's probably my biggest takeaway as well. Is it's just been awesome basketball, man. And for all the complaints about the regular season or too many three-pointers or whatever people want to complain about, this is what we're waiting for, man. So it is here. I'm ready to enjoy every single part of it, and let's dive right into the action. So right off the bat, let's get into the controversial topic of that ending of the New York Knicks versus Detroit Pistons team. So me and you have gone pretty back and forth about this series overall. I felt strongly that this Detroit Pistons team has been disrespected, and I feel horrible for this Pistons team right now, straight up. Sam, to put it on the table right now, a foul is a foul is a foul. Tim Hardaway Jr. got fouled on what should have been a game-winning opportunity, and I think the Detroit Pistons got absolutely screwed there. You think I'm wrong?
Look, it was a foul. Don't get me wrong. 100% it was a foul. There's no question about it. It was a textbook foul based on definition. My thing is, I don't have a problem with them not calling it in that situation and in this moment of a huge playoff game, because that's the tone you set in this series. It is going to be an incredibly physical, tough series, and teams are going to get away with a lot of contact on jump shots, on drives, on just dribbling the ball up the court. Like that's the tone you set. So I don't have a problem with the officials not calling that. Yes, of course, it was a foul. That's indisputable.
And that's another story to me.
But based on the actual definition. But you know that time and place and context and all that matters given the situation. And the situation didn't call for them to blow the whistle there, in my opinion.
You're saying time and situation matters and context matters. So the actual game-winning opportunity attempt, having a shot with the game on the line where your direct shot, a complete trajectory is impacted by Josh Hart falling into you, does not matter to be a foul there.
But how many times do we talk about we don't want there to be ticky-tack fouls late in games? Because even though they're technical textbook fouls and the last 2-minute report might say they're fouls, you don't want that because you want it to be a physical game. You don't want a free throw and free throws to decide the game. And that's the tone that's been set all series. It's not just that one game or that one play. That's the tone that's been set all series, that you can get away with a lot of contact on a lot of different shots and possessions. And that, based on that tone, I don't have a problem with them calling it on a shot that would have decided the game. Yeah. Also, I wouldn't say Josh Hart jumped into him. I would say Tim Hardaway leaned into Josh Hart.
I wouldn't put it that way. I get your case. To me, the bottom line is a foul is a foul is a foul. That was a foul. He should have gone to the free throw line. And what sucks to me more than anything, and this isn't the only game that I feel this way about, like I just feel a little like dirty about the way the game ends. And that sucks too. Now, I agree with your point. And overall, I think the referees did a nice job of swallowing the whistle throughout that game. That's what we want in a basketball game. We want these teams to be physical. I don't need to take 4 hours of my time watching Jalen Brunson shoot 336 free throws, as sometimes happens during Knicks game there. So I am appreciative of letting the boys play a little bit there. But the bottom line is, to me, I feel horrible for this Pistons team, man. I thought they brought their best effort. I thought they deserved a clean chance to win it, and I don't think they got one.
I don't know how you feel bad for a team that blew a 10-point lead in the fourth quarter. I mean, they had that game. Like they you can talk about the foul, and that's obviously the storyline. So that's what we're opening with, and that's what everyone's talking about. But they blew that game. Like Jalen Brunson went off after coming back from that ankle injury with 15 points in the fourth quarter late in that game. Karl-Anthony Towns had clutch play after clutch play after clutch play. The Pistons couldn't score down the stretch. That's the story. It's not the foul. That's the story. The Pistons blew that game, and then Knicks snatched it from them. So the story to me is everyone coming into the series talked about the Pistons' physicality, their toughness, their defense. That's what's going to get it done for the believers in the Pistons, like yourself. What I've seen is these are two gutsy wins in Detroit. They just went and won 2 games in Detroit, and they matched. And the Pistons, to their credit, they've been awesome. I mean, I've been shocked how competitive this series in each of these games have been because of their physicality and toughness. But the Knicks proved they are up for that. They can match that physicality and toughness, and they showed it with 2 gutsy wins, or at least yesterday, a comeback win in Detroit.
And we'll move on from the referee conversation right after this, but sort of like a broader stroke principle. Does it bother you at all the way like things go down? Like yesterday, for example, with this Knicks game, that immediately after the game, it's just openly admitted by referees. Yep, we got that one wrong. That was a missed call. That should have been a foul. And then it's just kind of like, our bad. We move on. I almost feel like that makes it worse, man. Like, and I know we'll get the last 2-minute report today, which I'm sure will confirm that was absolutely foul on Josh Hart because it was, and everyone saw it on clear display here. Like, I don't know how we fix that process, but it's almost like rubbing salt in the wound to me.
Yeah, I can do without the 2-minute report. I don't really think it's necessary for the league because it's just going to outrage and inflame fan bases even more and coaching staffs even more. Like, you don't really need it. Everyone kind of knows. I guess to some degree, there's going to be the debate, and it kind of just ends the debate of whether it is or foul or isn't. Like, the league will come out and say it. But for the playoffs, it's just not really necessary. And it happened with the Sixers-Knicks series last year. Where the Sixers got screwed on a late call, and it was confirmed by the 2-minute report. And it kind of ends the debate there. But at the same time, it's like we don't really need the 2-minute report. It's just unnecessary. Like, this is an imperfect sport. Refed, played, coached by imperfect humans. And like, that's kind of part of the game. Like, you are going to get screwed on calls at times. Like, the Rams a couple of years ago weren't in the Super Bowl the Saints weren't in the Super Bowl, and the Rams were because of an awful no call and a pass interference. Bad calls happen.
Holding.
What's that?
James Bradbury holding in the Super Bowl.
Exactly. Like, yeah, exactly. So it's an imperfect sport, and like, refs are imperfect. They're going to make mistakes. They're pretty good. Like, people who think refs suck, like, they're pretty damn good at their jobs for the most part. They do a great job. Coaches make mistakes. JJ Redick made a huge one yesterday, which we'll talk to. Players make mistakes all the time. It's an imperfect sport, and like that's part of it. So I could probably do without the last 2-minute report, but for the conversation to be all about the refs and one missed call instead of the whole series and the whole game and the whole last fourth quarter, and Jalen Brunson coming back and scoring 15 points in the fourth quarter on a bum ankle, it's just disappointing. That's the conversation.
Can you name for me a playoff victory by this Knicks team that was not overshadowed by referee controversy?
Anyone?
I can't come up with one.
I mean, there's been a few these series. There's been a few, but they have been the beneficiary. Let me ask, like, the conversation to me has shifted to a lot of Pistons fans and Knicks haters complaining about how the Knicks have been officiated compared to that final play. Let me just say, before you go, everyone's complaining about how Brunson's being officiated, and they think he's getting like an easy whistle. I think Brunson is getting an awful whistle. And I'm dead serious about that. They set the tone that physicality is okay. You can pretty much foul every single play, and you're going to get away with a lot of it, which is fine. I'm all for that physicality in the playoff series. Like, this is the playoffs. Let them play. The problem is Brunson is getting killed every time he's bringing up the floor, whether it's Asar Thompson, Dennis Schroeder, doesn't matter who it is. He's getting clotheslined on some of his drives, and it's going uncalled. So, yes, he's getting a decent amount of calls. He's also getting fouled almost like based on the textbook definition of a foul, like everyone's saying Josh Hart was on Tim Hardaway on that final shot. Textbook definition of a foul. Brunson is getting fouled almost every single possession. And yes, he's getting to the free throw line a good amount, but he's getting destroyed and hacked. And the Pistons' tone that they said is, we're going to foul Brunson. You're going to call it sometimes, but you're not going to be able to call it every time. He's getting, I've never seen this type of physicality on an individual player in the playoffs in one series. He's getting killed.
If you're going to argue that Tim Hardaway Jr. created contact, I will argue that Jalen Brunson creates contact in a lot of those instances. I agree with your point. They're for sure being intentionally physical with them. And like, that's who the Detroit Pistons are. That's their identity as a basketball team. So I get it on all regards, but I do think Brunson, plays a part in these altercations at worst here. He attacks the body. That's how he creates separation. That's how he plays. That's how he's always played. So like, there's a two-way street in all of these here, but my last Jalen Brunson thing, I'll give you the floor to give him his flowers. He did score 15 points in that fourth quarter. He did get that Patrick Mahomes, whatever injection into his ankle to make sure he's fine. Karl-Anthony Towns did hit 2 shots that I did not think Karl-Anthony Towns had in his bag like that I did not think he could rise to the moment. I will tip the cap to the Knicks for that. Any final thoughts on them taking the commanding 3-1 lead and sticking the fork in them? In the Pistons,
let me just take my victory lap, and I'll just present it as a question. Who do you think's the best player in the series?
I still think it's Cade Cunningham.
Hold on.
How? So here's where you'll win this argument is when it's nut up time, when it is that crunch time fourth quarter, that Jalen Brunson's been that dude, and that's who he is. But my point, and in yesterday's game specifically, Cade struggled a little bit early on. That whole third quarter stretch, he just controlled that game on both sides of the ball in the way that I really appreciate there. And from an overall talent standpoint, I think the takeaway from a Detroit Pistons perspective, and this season should be viewed as a success regardless. You tripled your win total from last year. You're back in the playoffs for the first time in forever. Cade Cunningham looks like a grade A guy. They got to get a co-star for him. And sure, Jaden Ivey's out. That's a part of the equation here. I am a believer that a guy like Asar Thompson can take that next step. They're still very young in the youth movement. To me, I feel way more confident leaving this series that Cade Cunningham can be a number one guy on a legit contender than I do in the opposite of that conversation.
Don't get me wrong. Cade is the man. He is the guy, and he does need a co-star, and Jaden Ivey can be that guy. And Cade will be a franchise player. This is not an anti-Cade thing by any stretch. It's a pro-Jalen Brunson thing because you weren't the only ones saying that Cade Cunningham was the best player in the series. It was a common sentiment coming out from legitimate analysts saying that Cade Cunningham was the best player in the series, and it was just ridiculous. It made no sense. Like we're talking about the fourth quarter, the most important quarter when you need your guys at their absolute best. Let me give you some stats. Jalen Brunson in the fourth quarter, 53 points on 65% shooting, 8 assists to 1 turnover. Cade Cunningham in the fourth quarter of the series, 26 points, 35% shooting, 10 assists to 8 turnovers. There are levels to this stuff, everyone. People saying that Cade Cunningham was on Jalen Brunson's level, it's ridiculous. Jalen Brunson have been there, done that in playoff series. In his last 4 playoff series, he's averaged at least 29 points per game. And I get the Jalen Brunson disrespect in theory because it doesn't make sense, right? How is this tiny dude as efficient and electric as a scorer as he is? There's no precedent for that in NBA history. The only other guy is really Steph Curry, but he is the greatest shooter of all time. And Jalen Brunson's an awesome shooter, but he's not the shooter that Curry is. He doesn't have the range Curry is. So it makes no sense for a guy of his size to be this electric and efficient of a scorer, but he is. So I get the disrespect. I get why he didn't make Team USA, even though he's way better than Tyrese Halliburton and deserved a spot on that team. But people saying that Cade Cunningham was a better player than him, he is the clutch player of the year for a reason. Jalen Brunson is a top 7 to 8 player in the NBA, and he's showing it in this series.
It's two sides of the basketball as well. I will throw that out there. And I'm taking Cade defensively on an every single possession basis. I get it. You're going to win this one. The Knicks are going to advance, and Jalen Brunson has led this team to it. So I will wave the white flag for this for now. I don't believe the Pistons are coming back from 3-1. It would not shock me if they pull a win out of their and kind of just give themselves a fighting chance. The team's not going to roll over. I've gained a ton of respect for this Detroit Pistons team. And by the way, that Tobias Harris, I don't know what happened to that man, but I've never seen intensity like him going chest to chest with Karl-Anthony Towns, him being as physical as he is, him going up for second chance boards like that. Shout out to him. I did not see that in 5 years in the Sixers uniform.
Yeah, and to that point, Tobias Harris, it's probably the Sixers fans just broke him. He wouldn't be the first athlete that we see a Sixers fan base kind of broke him just mentally. And I think this has been a good rejuvenation for him this year. And he's had a good year and is obviously having a pretty good series. But on the flip side of that, credit to Karl-Anthony Towns, who a lot of people have called soft and have called out his playoff performances over the year. And he's kind of notorious for being not a playoff sellout, but a playoff underperformer. He's been awesome, not just throughout the series, but in the clutch. Like game 3 and game 4, a fadeaway baseline shot that was just so clutch threes in game 4 yesterday. This isn't a guy who I would associate with the word clutch, but he has been, and he's matched their physicality, their intensity. He has not been soft by any stretch. So I think everyone can drop that label surrounding Cat. And last thing, he's not the only guy who's kind of turned around the playoff narrative. And we'll talk about the Timberwolves Lakers series, but him and Julius Randle, of course, a former Knick, guys who were notorious for being underperformers in the playoffs. They've had some impressive playoff stretches in this first round.
Yeah, you're right. And let's get it right over to that series there. So the Minnesota Timberwolves taking a commanding 3-1 series lead. I think we have a bit of different perspective on this. Are you counting the Lakers out? Is this too large of a deficit? How do you feel about the Lakers falling down 3-1 here?
I'm not counting the Lakers out, but obviously they have an uphill battle to climb. I think the Timberwolves, and I think myself, because I picked the Lakers in 7, which is obviously still open for the taking, and every analyst that you saw pick was Lakers. The favorites were the Lakers. I think all of us kind of underestimated how good this Timberwolves team was playing down the stretch of the season and how that really did matter. And Julius Randle coming into the offense and Anthony Edwards getting him involved at a high rate was really impressive over the last 2 months of the season. And they were winning a ton of basketball games because of it. And everyone kind of just threw that to the side and was like, Luka, LeBron, Austin Reeves is going to be enough. But when you really look at the totality of these two teams, it's the Timberwolves are probably the better team. And we're seeing that, not probably, they are the better team. And we're seeing that through 2 games. But the conversation surrounding yesterday's game is about JJ Redick, who's a phenomenal coach. He's done a great job this season. I have no doubt. He's a brilliant basketball mind, his intensity, his discipline, everything. He's going to be an awesome coach in the NBA for a long time. But it was inexcusable what he did yesterday. I mean, it was irresponsible. It was negligent. It was just malpractice. Playing your starters for the first time in NBA history, all 5 of you, not even your starters, but playing 5 guys the entire second half. You can't get away with that. And I get it from the perspective of he has no bench. Jackson Hayes starts at center. He plays 4 minutes. I don't even know why he starts. He's unplayable in this series. You have to go small because you don't have a center. And it's interesting if what this team would look like if they had Mark Williams or any center, which of course they tried to trade for Mark Williams, and then the health thing got in the way. But it's the conversation of how he played all 5 starters the entire second half. You can't get away with that. This isn't the Knicks, a team where they were used to that playing that load in the regular season, and those guys play a ton of minutes anyway. You're talking about a 40-year-old in LeBron James. You played 24 straight minutes, and Luka Doncic, who is notorious for being unconditioned. I mean, right or wrong, and it's wrong, but he got traded, a big part of it, from the Mavs because of his conditioning. And you just played him 24 consecutive minutes in the second half. Not to mention, they only had less than 48 hours of rest before their prior game. And in that prior game, Luka Doncic was sick because he was throwing up all day. I mean, it's malpractice to play these guys the entire second half. And he doesn't have the best bench in the world, but you can find 5 to 10 minutes for Gabe Vincent. You can find 5 to 10 minutes for Jared Vanderbilt just to give these guys some relief. And you saw it in the fourth quarter. Lakers went up. They were up 10 entering that fourth quarter, and they blew it. And you saw LeBron scored 0 points in the fourth quarter. He only took 2 shots. He was barely even involved in the offense. Luka Doncic was being targeted in the pick and roll constantly. And it was interesting because LeBron was great defensively, but he was a non-factor offensively. And Luka was carrying in the fourth quarter offensively. But defensively, he was being targeted all the time, and teams do that anyway, where it's just whoever was guarding Luka Doncic is going to go set a ball screen for Anthony Edwards, and put Doncic in action. And with 9 minutes, I rewatched that game this morning. With 9 minutes left in that game, Luka Doncic had his hands on his knees. You know exactly when you play youth sports and they're telling you don't put your hands on your knees, like put them up here to get energy, like don't show the opponent that you're tired by hands on your knees. 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter. Doncic put his hands on his knees every single dead ball. They were exhausted. It was just a bad coaching performance from JJ Redick, and that's a big reason why they lost.
Yeah, and it's predictable. Like, I get it from JJ Redick's standpoint, that I get your hands are kind of tied here, that you don't have guys that you trust whatsoever. To lay out the minutes directly here, we saw Rui Hachimura play 41 minutes yesterday. LeBron James, 46 minutes. Luka Doncic, 46 minutes. Austin Reeves, 35 minutes. Dorian Finney-Smith, 41 minutes. And the next highest on the team is Gabe Vincent at 13. Jackson Hayes with 4 minutes, as you mentioned. I believe he got a technical in that 4 minutes. So Jackson Hayes, like, chill out a little bit. But like, these are not guys that you can do this with. Like, you're a comparison to the Knicks. This is 40-year-old LeBron James and Luka Doncic, who has had these concerns. And by the way, how much do you think Nico Harrison was just loving watching Luka out of breath?
He's hate watching like crazy on this Lakers team.
Yes, 100% there. Like, to defend JJ Redick a little bit here, I get they have not had the opportunity to properly build a roster around Luka Doncic and LeBron James. That it is a very different skill set. And by the way, that Dallas Mavericks team did a very good job of doing that, of building the guys around Luka. When you make a midseason acquisition of that magnitude, the way the Lakers did, and they were absolutely right to do so, don't get me wrong, you don't pass up that opportunity whatsoever. But I think we'll have a different story this time next year, or this time at the start of next season, when there is a more well-rounded roster, more built around these guys specifically. Now, with all that being said, I think a lot of this Lakers versus Timberwolves series came down to, we sort of know the Timberwolves are the more complete team, the better team, but the Lakers are going to have the best player in the series. They have Luka Doncic. They have LeBron James. The problem with that is Anthony Edwards has been the best player in the series by a pretty comfortable margin in my mind. Just looking at yesterday's performance, that he finished that matchup with 43 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, shot 5 of 10 from 3, got to the free throw line 17 times, played well defensively, was all over the place on both sides of the ball. Anthony Edwards is one of those dudes. He's a playoff riser. He's making the most of this opportunity. I could not be more impressed from a pure basketball perspective of what he's brought to this series.
You're 100% right. Anthony Edwards has been incredible. And it's really his development as a playmaker when he's doubled, because the Lakers were constantly doubling him and throwing 2 defenders his way and just heavy nail help on all his drives. But of course, we know the jump he's taken as a 3-point shooter this year. But really, the jump that he's taken throughout this season was how he's, as a playmaker, passing out of double teams. And he can consistently get to his spots despite double teams, and also deliver the ball where it needs to go despite getting doubled. And we saw that time and time again in the clutch yesterday with how he performed when the Lakers were just sending doubles his way. So I've been so impressed with Anthony Edwards. He's been awesome. He is the best player in this series. He has been the best player in the series, but it's also that the 2 through 5 or 3 through 5, however you want to put it, for the Wolves has been better than the Lakers. Like, Julius Randle has been awesome this series. And that's part of it. It's that a lot of these Ant doubles is he's delivering the ball to Julius Randle, and Julius Randle is taking advantage of 4-on-3 situations. And he's been a pretty good passer, but also he's getting to the rim at high rate, and he's shooting the hell out of the ball this series. He's shooting 45% from 3 this series. That's not the Julius Randle that we know. Of course, averaging 22 a game. Jaden McDaniels has been phenomenal this series. He's averaging almost 20 a game on 42% shooting from 3. On Friday night, he had a 30 ball for the Wolves. And he's doing all this offensively. It wasn't great yesterday offensively, but he's doing this offensively while guarding Luka. Like, he's Luka's primary defender. So what he's doing on both sides of the ball has been phenomenal. Then you have Naz Reid shooting 52% from 3. And then, like, that's ridiculous. And they're closing, and who they close their lineup with, their most used lineup, is with Dante DiVincenzo, who's actually struggled. He's probably their best 3-point shooter, and he's shooting 21% from 3, but you're still having this success offensively. So it's just the Wolves 3 through 5 and their 2 through 5 has been so much better than the Lakers. Even though Rui had an awesome game yesterday, Austin Reeves has been in and out a little bit. He had a great second half, but a horrible first half yesterday. Dorian Finney-Smith has had some moments, but he hasn't been great overall, especially as a shooter. So look, like, it's just the 2 through 5 and 3 through 5 is so much better right now than the Lakers, and that's been the story.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about all that. Now, again, as you mentioned, you're not closing the door completely. Is there an adjustment that JJ Redick can make? I personally don't have anything that jumps to mind other than you need, like, Luka Doncic and LeBron James to have these type of heroic performances. That, for all these reasons that we just laid out, it's going to take those guys looking like top 5 players in the entire world for them to come back from this. Do you see any other direction or things they should tweak?
So what's surprising is their clutch offense has been horrible. In 2 of the clutch games in the playoffs, they have a 78 offensive rating in the clutch. That's atrocious. I mean, it's the second worst in the playoffs, only because the Grizzlies have worse, because it's the Grizzlies right now. But that's just awful. And that's surprising, given Luka and LeBron are 2 of the more clutch players in the league. And we've seen Austin Reeves step up in clutch moments this season, even though he missed that game-tying 3 at the end of regulation yesterday. The Lakers were outscored by 13 in the fourth quarter. LeBron had 0 points and only took 2 shots. All of Austin Reeves' shot attempts, which was 7 in the fourth quarter, were all 3-pointers. 66% of the Lakers' entire shot attempts in the fourth quarter were 3-pointers. That is fatigue. Like, that is fatigue. You have to be able to get to the rim, especially late in games. You have to put pressure on the rim and at least get to the free throw line. The only way you really get to the free throw line is by attacking the rim. So, and those free throws also can give stoppages. So to me, that's fatigue. So the adjustment is, JJ Redick learned his lesson. I'm sure he's never going to do that again. You have to give Luka relief so he's at his best in the final minutes in the fourth quarter. Same with LeBron James. So it's not a major adjustment. They're going back home. I expect them to definitely win at home, especially because that whistle is going to be very, very friendly to the Lakers back at home. So the NBA can
maybe.
Yeah, maybe. So the NBA can force a game 6 here, especially because this is an awesome series. Ant Edwards, one of their stars, and of course the Lakers with Luka and LeBron. So I have no doubt the NBA. It's obviously, I'm not saying it's rigged, but the whistle is going to be very much in the Lakers' favor, and I think the Lakers definitely force this to at least 6. But yeah, JJ Redick just has to find those guys rest, so their offense is better late in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, in full agreement there, and that game will pick up back on Wednesday. So we will tap back into that when it is the time. I do want to zoom through these final 2 games of last night, not to hit on them too hard. I want to give a little bit of respect to the Orlando Magic, man. It did ultimately end a 107-98 victory for the Celtics to take a 3-1 series lead. This was a series that and I think a lot of people sort of assumed the Celtics would cruise directly through. The Magic have made it a battle, and honestly, that game was far closer than that final score indicated. That it was a less than 5-point game for the large majority of that. Was impressed with Jason Tatum. He's grown on me this year, and I think we're seeing him be quite clearly the centerpiece of this team. They haven't got great minutes from guys like Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, Drew Holiday still injured here. Any thoughts on this Magic versus Celtics takeaway yesterday?
I've been really impressed with the Magic as well. Their defensive intensity, their physicality. They've done a great job on Kristaps. He's been really bothering us, just having a bad series all around. Celtics are a different team without Drew Holiday. Like, his impact won't ever show up on the box score because he just doesn't get that many shot attempts playing alongside such other talented offensive guys. But his impact defensively, how he can really guard 1 through 5, and I mean that. Like, they put Drew Holiday on the other team's center a lot of the time, and how he is as a connector offensively. Like, this team is just different when he's out of the lineup, and Kristaps has been playing bad. Like I said, I've been impressed with Franz Wagner, like really, really impressed with Franz Wagner. He's shooting 6 for 27 from 3, which is awful. I mean, that's awful, but he's still being a pretty productive scorer in a lot of other areas and otherwise. Like, if he can develop a shot, just develop any shot.
Not happening.
I will, he's gotten worse as a shooter every single season somehow in his 4 years in the league. If he can develop a shot, this guy has all NBA potential. But I've been impressed with the Magic. I think this team was better than a 7 seed. They were really only a 7 seed because of all the injuries they dealt with this year, and they're still without Jalen Suggs and Mo Wagner, of course, for these playoffs. So I've been impressed. They need a point guard, but I'm pretty optimistic about their future.
They need shooting, man, is what they need more than anything.
That too.
And does it bother you at all that they were guarding Franz Wagner like prime Ben Simmons by the end of that game?
Like, that's what you do when he's a really effective driver getting downhill, but he can't shoot the ball. So, like, it doesn't bother me. I know he's a horrible shooter. I just read his stats. He has to improve his 3-point percentage. And we talked about this the other day, but earlier this season, after 2 months of the season, he was shooting about 36% from 3, and I was really encouraged. And then he had an injury, and then it was just all downhill from there. He developed a hitch in his shot mid-season. So it's been pretty ugly. The Magic needs shooters, but it starts with developing their guys that they already have on the roster as shooters.
Yeah, you're right there. And by the way, the Orlando Magic, a sneaky team that our friend Mark Henry Jr. floated out to me that could be in the mix for this next superstar I do want to talk about. The Milwaukee Bucks here. So 2 big storylines in this game. For starters, got to give the Indiana Pacers their credit, taking a 3-1 commanding series lead, and frankly have looked like the better basketball team, I think, from start to finish in this season. Their other guys have been the difference makers. The Andrew Nemharts, the Aaron Naismiths. You can go down the list of all these guys, the Ben Shepherds, that have really made their impact felt in this series in a way that Milwaukee has simply been unable to match. But the story of last night was 2 things here. Number one, got to send prayers and feel horrible for Damian Lillard. That did look pretty clearly like an Achilles injury, and I don't think we've got the official report, but we more or less do. They pretty much know that right away, and that's what the immediate reports were. He was ruled out right away. Chris Haynes already on it. We know Chris Haynes, the Dame Lillard connection is pretty strong on the pass the message down the line there. So certainly prayers up for Dame. Do feel horrible for a guy who spent the prime years of his career in Portland trying to do things the right way, build a contender at home. Then he did ultimately end up in Milwaukee, and the window being shut pretty quickly, it seems. So my question to you, is that the last home game that we ever see Giannis Antetokounmpo in a Milwaukee Bucks jersey?
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably for sure. First on Dame, it just sucks. I mean,
Yeah.
that like it feels like it's appropriate to start writing the obituary on Damian Lillard's career. I mean, he's turning 35 this summer, going to be recovering from an Achilles injury. We saw Kevin Durant recover from an Achilles injury around his mid 30s, more early 30s, really. But Kevin Durant's game and Damian Lillard's game is very different. Like Damian Lillard relies on that burst and athleticism. And people have recovered well from Achilles injuries more recently. But like when you think about Kobe, when he tore his Achilles in his like early to mid 30s, and obviously he was at the tail end of his career anyway, and he was never the same after that. It does feel like this is the end for Dame, which just sucks. And when that time comes, it's been an awesome career. He really has produced some electric moments throughout NBA history, and just an awesome, really fun player to watch. As for the Giannis discussion, yeah, I mean, I don't think he wants to leave. Like, I really don't think, which is why he hasn't requested a trade yet. But this Damian Lillard, Giannis experiment has been a disaster, and it's not all their fault. They've been pretty unlucky, if we're being honest. Like the injury last year going into the playoffs, Giannis missed the entire first round against the Pacers. Of course, later this year, Dame Lillard's blood clots and coming back, missed game one, comes back into the playoffs, now tears his Achilles. It's season over for him, series probably over for the Bucks. But it's also when they're on the court together. Maybe it's the surrounding parts. Like Chris Middleton was aging. Kyle Kuzma hasn't done the job when he came aboard. Brooke Lopez has aged fast.
Yeah.
So it's also the surrounding parts, but the experiment just never really worked. And so when you're looking from Giannis's perspective, why would you stay there? Like, if you really want to compete, you're in your absolute prime right now. He's just probably had the best season of his career. Yeah. Why would you want to stay in Milwaukee? And I think he loves Milwaukee. I think he's grateful for them. He's spent over a decade there, to that organization, that city, and he talks about that constantly. But now it's like, why are you? This will be your third straight first round exit. And last year you didn't play in the playoffs. This year you've been healthy, but your team dealt with injuries. Why stay there? Like, go compete for championships somewhere else. Go request out somewhere else. So yeah, I think that was the last home game we ever saw Giannis play in Milwaukee.
I agree. They are 1-8 in their last 9 playoff games. The Milwaukee Bucks are, with Giannis in the lineup there, and I'm glad that he got the ring in Milwaukee. I think there would be some pretty nasty conversations and talking points about Giannis if that were not the case. And
conversation would be completely different. That might be the most valuable ring out of anyone has.
Honestly, and it's one that kind of flies under the radar. And I also think like Giannis sort of has these past couple years that, if anything, I would push he's become underrated in the conversation for where he ranks amongst the NBA's most elite, because I think that's a fair case that he had the best season of his career this year. He was excellent and should have been more prominent in sort of these MVP discussions. I also felt when watching yesterday, the all too familiar feeling of watching a Doc Rivers offense, man. Of it was just give the ball to Giannis, everyone else stand around on the perimeter. He tries to post somebody down, and if they double, he kicks out for 3. If not, he tries to take a guy on the post. And I've seen it in other locations right here in Philadelphia. It just does not like translate to playoff success in a way that like it should. Now, like, there's a lot of issues with this Milwaukee team. I think the worst part, you're right about the injury luck. There's been a lot of things that have gone wrong. They've been underwhelming even when at full force to me. And I do think like the other guys are not good enough. The complementary pieces have not been enough for this team. But I think it all points to it's time for both sides here. That I think Milwaukee would make the right decision to recoup a haul, to get some young players, get some draft picks, begin this next generation. And Giannis is still ready to compete, man. So whether this is the Houston Rockets we're talking about, the Orlando Magic, the Toronto Raptors, a team I would float out there. There's teams that are going to show interest. Can't rule out a team. I know the Brooklyn Nets have stuck their nose in the ring already. The Phoenix Suns, I'm sure, will try and figure out some sort of cap way to make things work here. There's going to be takers for Giannis. So, yeah, I do think this is the end of an era. I feel a little bit more sad about it than I thought I would. Like, I have some sympathy for Giannis, to be perfectly honest, that I do think for the most part, he's done things the right way. He competes at a higher intensity than you'll find of any superstar on every single night there. So it's sad. This feels like the end of a book in a lot of ways here. And Damian Lillard is probably going to be the guy like left kind of carrying things, which we'll see how that shakes out. I don't know how it all works. It just all sucks is kind of my takeaway here.
Yeah, and they just gave their general manager, John Horst, an extension. So, I mean, you kind of expect that they enter a rebuild. The owner must anticipate at some level that they're about to enter a rebuild. And I guess they trust John Horst, who's been a little questionable as a drafter over the last few seasons. I guess they trust him to facilitate a rebuild. What'd you say?
And as like making trades too, I would say.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, look, like you gave Drew Holiday to one of your rivals in the East, and the Celtics won a championship as a result of it. I still don't look back at that Damian Lillard trade and think it was the wrong trade. I think you needed, like, the Bucks had just come off of a first round exit. Drew Holiday could not carry the load offensively. You needed to pair Giannis with that type of offensive presence, and Damian Lillard was that. And they really ended up developing really nice chemistry this year together in the pick and roll, the inverted pick and roll. Like those guys, whoever was the ball handler in those pick and rolls, they were pretty unstoppable when those two would go to that action. So it was nice to see that, but it seems like it's over now. On the flip side, to the Pacers real quick, people say I'm a Pacers hater. I do respect how deep this team is. I mean, depth is their strength. We talk about a lot of teams like the Knicks, like the Nuggets, like the Lakers who have no depth, and depth is the Pacers' strength. But next series, it's also the Cavs' strength. The Cavs has a lot of depth to match the Pacers. I just want to see the Pacers beat a team that's healthy. Like the Pacers were probably the better team in this series going in, even if Giannis and Dame were healthy from the start. I want to see the Pacers win a playoff series against a healthy basketball team. Obviously, it didn't happen this series. Last year, they beat the Knicks, who were banged up when OG went out, and then Jalen hurts his hand in the game 7, and he goes out. And the series before that, they played the Bucks without Giannis. So let's just see this Pacers team actually win a playoff series against the Cavs, who presumably should be fully healthy.
Yeah, and my only like pushback will be you can only beat who's in front of you. You're right about the point, but like they've maximized their chances there. And I know you're not a Tyrese Halliburton guy. I will give him a little tip of the hat for the way he took ownership and like gave his respect to Dame Lillard following that game. I thought that was a nice thing, respectable to do. And I think guys could have slipped up based on the energy of the series and all the chirping. So a little shout out there. Let's shift it back to the night before in what I still think is probably the closest buzzer beater I've ever seen between the Clippers and Nuggets. For starters, don't let that overshadow what was a straight up awesome basketball game from start to finish. The Clippers having a heroic comeback to even make this a game and make it competitive again here. Or I'm sorry, I think I said that the wrong way. The Clippers come back to make it a game again, and ultimately the Nuggets punish them at the buzzer there. So, Sam, your takeaways from that game and that final shot in particular there?
I thought it counted. Definitely controversial. Like it's as close of a final shot as you could possibly get. I thought it counted. Like the ball was through the net and off his hands as the buzzer sounded. Like it's so close. Like I think they should count it, and I think they deserve it. But the Clippers, like they stormed, like Nuggets blew that lead in that game. The Clippers stormed back. And between James Harden and Kawhi Leonard and Norman Powell and all those guys just drilling threes, and just the Nuggets couldn't get a stop late in that game. The Clippers probably deserved to win that game with how those final few minutes went. And Jokic, just that final possession, I mean, he waited so long to go until like 4 seconds on the clock to even make his move. And then
he shot an air ball.
Yeah, and then he wasn't even like trying to get to the rim. It's like back it got like that's your specialty, back someone down and produce a better shot. He shot a fadeaway 3 ball that was just an awful shot, and it was an air ball, like you said. And then Aaron Gordon's there to swoop it up and dunk it back in. So it was an awesome basketball game all around. People were saying coolest buzzer beater ever, like best buzzer beater ever. I think people sometimes forget. I know you don't forget. And we don't forget, but the Kawhi Leonard shot was like, that was the most unbelievable buzzer beater there will ever be in playoff history. Nothing will ever come close to that. It hit every inch of the rim. Like that nothing will ever beat that as a playoff buzzer beater. But this one was pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that one still defies the laws of physics in my mind. So I wouldn't throw it up there for the coolest ever, but shout out to Denver, man. That was very impressive, pretty gutsy. Aaron Gordon, I have a ton of respect for, and like, I don't think they could have found a more perfect, seamless fit to play next to Nikola Jokic, who makes up for a ton of his shortcomings. And I don't think this team would have nearly the success that they have had if they did not have Aaron Gordon. So shout out to him very much, an unsung hero in my mind. We'll zoom through the rest of this slate a little bit for the Saturday matchup. So the Cavs BTA on the Heat, 124-87. This series feels over to me. I know Tyler Hero is saying that don't let us get one. We're not going to get swept. Can the Heat win one? And I know that game is taking place tonight.
Yeah, I had the Cavs at 5 just because
Spoelstra.
Eric Spoelstra can win you a game. And Tyler Hero's been awesome to his credit. But I wouldn't be shocked. The Cavs are just a way better, deeper, more talented team. So I wouldn't be shocked if they wrap it up in 4 tonight. I will real quick. Can we go back? Who do you have right now in the Nuggets Clippers series? Like obviously 2-2 right now. Who going back to Denver? Who do you have in that series?
I still think I have Clippers, to be honest with you. This is going to 7 games. I pretty much have no doubt about this. I think they each win one at home probably in the next 2 games, and then it comes down to game 7 with it. I still think like there's a defensive intensity that this Clippers team brings that I really admire, like the way that Chris Dunn's able to assert himself and a number of these other guys. Kawhi Leonard, I still think if it comes down to it, is a guy who can deliver that killer blow there. So I'm still leaning on Clippers in 7, but I mean, this series rules.
Yeah, the thing with me for the Clippers is, and the Nuggets help, like Jokic's help is so inconsistent night to night. You never know if you're going to get an inefficient or efficient Jamal Murray. Michael Porter Jr. had a great game on Saturday, but he mostly was struggling, and he's been dealing with an injury, but he's mostly been struggling. Aaron Gordon's been dealing with an injury. Christian Braun has been good for the most part, but again, like you don't know it's all inconsistent help. The Clippers have their top 4 has been pretty awesome in terms of Norman Powell, Kawhi Leonard, James Harden, and Zubac. Their 5th starter has been great defensively, really poor offensively. And the Nuggets have done a good job of doubling Kawhi on a lot of these possessions off of that 5th starter. And they're essentially not guarding them because they're a non-factor. And that's either been Chris Dunn or Derrick Jones Jr., and Derrick Jones Jr. is a guy who went through playoff battles last year with the Mavs to the finals. I expected more from him offensively. He was a great catch and shoot shooter last year. He's incredibly athletic, getting downhill. He has not been great this series. Chris Dunn has been phenomenal defensively, but he's been a non-factor offensively. Their 5th starter has to produce at a higher level. He just does.
Yeah, no, you're right about that. I still think Denver, like, I think they have those same issues in slightly different light there. Like the same variable that you're talking about. Like Michael Porter Jr. could shoot 0 for 10 next game and it wouldn't overly shock me. Like that's just kind of the roller coaster you ride there. So we'll see. I do think
Clippers in 7 was my pick too, so I'm sticking with it.
Yeah, I'm riding with it for now. The other series that I think is very up in the air and really fun to watch, Golden State taking a 2-1 lead over Houston Rockets. A pretty impressive win that I thought, the 104-93, the final game of Saturday night. Any thoughts on that particular game or this series as a whole, Sam?
This was a classic Curry game, and that's exactly what the Warriors needed. And he's done a great job of combating the Rockets' physicality, really just with his off-ball movement. Like this guy, and we know this about Steph Curry, but he never stops moving within an offense. And when you put him off the ball, like, yeah, you can face guard him all you want, but when you guys are setting constant screens for him, he's constantly moving. It's not really sustainable throughout an entire game, and the physicality on him isn't really sustainable for an entire game. So this was a classic Curry game. He just had 36, and they needed it without Jimmy Butler. I was really concerned without Jimmy Butler because I didn't trust the Warriors' depth, but Curry had a classic game, 36 points. A lot of guys stepped up, like Gary Payton hit 2 huge threes. Buddy Hield, I believe, had 5 threes in the game. So a lot of guys that they needed to step up to carry the offensive load without Jimmy Butler did. And that's obviously bad news for the Rockets when you take a 2-1 lead and that game's tonight and you think that Jimmy Butler's coming back and going to play, but we don't know exactly. If Jimmy Butler doesn't play, I could see the Rockets winning. If Jimmy Butler's back at Jimmy Butler's level, and even if he only plays like 20 to 25 minutes, you can still put Jonathan Kuminga in for like 10 to 15 minutes, who hasn't been great, but he's at least he brings something defensively. And the Rockets offense, especially in the 4th quarter, just has been non-existent. And a big part of that is Jalen Green, who we talked about is just such an inconsistent player. And his levels of efficiency are one of the worst in the entire league during the regular season, had been last 2 regular seasons. But in the playoffs, the inconsistency, he scored less than 10 points in the first game, comes back, scores 30 plus in game 2, which was an awesome game. Huge reason why the Rockets won. and then he has another dud of a performance in game 3. It's just like, if this guy is your star, this guy is one of your leading scorers, your offense, like highest usage guy, your offense is centered around him. He can't have performances in the playoffs when he's scoring less than 10 points a game on 40%. If you want to put an average out there shooting, like, he just can't be that inefficient. He can't be that inconsistent. And that's why I was worried about the Rockets coming into the series, because of that playoff inexperience. And when you have a guy like Jalen Green, who's going to be carrying a lot of the load, and he's that inconsistent, it's hard to win over a 7-game stretch.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. And I think that's sort of a battle that Houston's still fighting within themselves about how do we move forward with this, or what is the direction. It is interesting when you look at the actual contract details of the max that they gave both Green and Şengün. They're not quite this full scale, you're our guy max. There's a lot of stipulations and a little more flexibility from an organizational standpoint. So I guess the takeaway from that being they can adjust if needed there. So we'll be interesting to see how that plays out. It also wouldn't shock me if Golden State tries to steal one. The fact that they did win without Jimmy Butler, if he's not right, they do hold him out for one more and think the worst case scenario, we dropped to 2-2. Obviously, his health is the biggest factor in this decision, and who knows? It does feel like more of a pain tolerance thing than anything. So I certainly could see Jimmy Butler, and if they can, they should go for the juggler. That I do think teams make mistakes when they get a little too complacent with it, but it would not overly shock me if they sit him out again tonight.
Yeah, the only concern is that you also want to get to the next series as soon as possible. Yeah. It's like you can't really mess around with that. Like, if he's healthy, go. If he's not, then he should sit out. But even if he's a little healthy, I would play him 20 to 25 minutes. Not like his normal 35+ minute workload that he'd see in the playoffs. Getting to the next series is going to be tough because we're seeing the Wolves, assuming the Wolves end up being the Lakers, up 3-1. The Wolves have just dominated with their size and physicality against the Lakers, who have to go small. Like, they have to put Rui Hachimura at the 5 because they don't have a center. The Warriors are the same way, where Draymond Green has to play the 5. And Draymond's a better small ball 5 with his physicality and defense and rebounding. But still, the Warriors have to go small. And so you want to get ready for that matchup and get as much rest as possible before playing another really big physical team that just has a size advantage like the Wolves would over the Warriors.
Yeah, no, 100% there. So it will be interesting. That'll be something to monitor throughout the day. Now, you spoke a lot about the skepticism of Jalen Green being a number 1 guy. We did put together our list of the top 10 players that we would want in a championship run right here. So we have a quite different list that I was surprised the last time we did break this open. I will say my Cade Cunningham at number 10, a little bit tougher to defend right now than I felt like on Thursday when we first brought this up. But Sam, how do you want to do this? You want to go 10 through 1, 1 through 10? What's your vision?
I'll go 1 through 10.
Okay.
And I switched my list up, if we're being honest.
I left mine. I thought I would keep the integrity to take the L a little bit here.
All the players are still the same in there. I just switched the order a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So my top 10 players, I guess I draft for a playoff run right now that are currently in the playoffs. So not players who didn't make the playoffs, right. Obviously. Number 1 is Jokic. Like, we're going to see more and more, I think. Everyone says the best player, or maybe used to be the best player in the series, that team will win the series. We're seeing that less and less in the NBA now. You really need your 2 through 5, your 3 through 5 to step up and have great performances. And we're seeing that with Jokic now, who's going to probably be bounced I think, in the first round. That doesn't change that he's the best player in the entire world, the best player in this series, and he's the number 1 guy I'd want for a playoff run. His ability to create shots for himself and his teammates every single time down the floor. Jokic is the best player in the world. He is the top player I'd want for a playoff run. Next, number 2, Kawhi Leonard. His last 66 playoff games, he's averaging 29 points, 8 rebounds, 4 assists on 63% true shooting. The only other player to do that ever over a 66-game stretch in the playoffs is LeBron James. Kawhi Leonard, when he's healthy, he's as good as anybody in the league that I'd want for a playoff run. So Kawhi is number 2. Number 3 is.
Can I interject here real quick?
Go ahead.
So I have the same top 2 in different orders here, and to make my case, and then we're more different from moving down. So if the question was framed for one season or starting a franchise, there's no doubt in my mind it's Jokic over Kawhi with that. Framing it as just a playoff run, I'm taking Kawhi Leonard over Nikola Jokic 10 times out of 10 here. That I do think the two-way impact that he has, he's a 2-time finals MVP, and there's this helplessness as a defense that Kawhi puts in you that I think Jokic needs his supporting cast in a way that I think Kawhi, regardless of the army behind him, can just deliver. the mid-range, the way he doesn't even hit the rim. And again, the defense does matter to me. So I had Kawhi as 1, Jokic as 2. I certainly hear the point, and I think more people would side with Jokic. But just for a playoff run, I'm taking proven playoff riser Kawhi Leonard.
Look, what's so impressive about Kawhi is that most of these buckets are coming in isolation, and he's not even getting a screen to create space. Like, he is elevating and rising or driving past dudes every single possession. It's all mostly in isolation. That's what's so impressive and different about him as opposed to other guys. Mostly these other guys need a screen to get some room and break open. But we're still talking about Nikola Jokic, who is the best passer in the world. He's scoring has gone to a whole nother level. He shot over 40% from three. He's one of the best 3-point shooters. The big man, the best guy who always considered the best big in the league. What's that?
Is the best late game air baller.
Sure, but he still was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league this year. So I'm just taking Jokic for a playoff run. And the other thing is, like, Kawhi's healthy right now, and we're assuming Kawhi's health. But can he withstand? And maybe we'll find out. Can he withstand an entire playoff run right now, which essentially would be 2 months of healthy basketball from Kawhi Leonard? We haven't seen 2 months of healthy basketball from Kawhi Leonard in a long time, especially not this late in the season. He only played 37 regular season games, which should help. But for all, like, Jokic, for as much people say he's perceived to be and looks out of shape and looks fat, whatever you want to call it, he is incredibly durable. The guy just does not miss games. He does not get injured. Knock on wood here. But it's incredible how durable he is. So I got Jokic number 1, Kawhi number 2. But look, I love Kawhi, so I'm not going to go too hard against Kawhi here.
Yeah, no, I just certainly understand the argument for Jokic and get that perspective. I will say, as a part of me who still has got a little Jokic hatred in him dating back from the prime.
It might be more than a little. It might be more than a little.
Yeah, well, the part that frustrates me is, like, Saturday, for example, will always be remembered as the incredible game winner by Aaron Gordon. And if he is not there, we're talking about Jokic. What was that, dude? And instead, like, that's how things work out. But I get, you can use that. You can cherry pick a lot of situations like that. So whatever.
All right. So number 3 on the list. So Jokic 1, Kawhi 2, number 3, Steph Curry. I mean, what we saw the other night without Jimmy Butler, 36-point performance when he carries the Warriors to a win against a really physical, defensive focused Rockets group. That's the Curry that we know in the playoffs, and we've come. And that 2022 championship run really solidified it for me as a playoff performer, because people were kind of critical of his playoff performances in, like, 2015, 2016. And then when KD came around, it just wasn't even fair. I mean, it was a cheat code with that team. But that 2022 run, when he was the guy, carried that team to a championship, he is a guy that I just want on any playoff roster. I'm drafting him number 3. Number 4 is Giannis. And I do think Giannis has become a little underappreciated because he's playing the best basketball of his career, but he hasn't been on a contender the last, like, 2 to 3 seasons. So I think he becomes underappreciated because of that. But that's the help. That's not on Giannis. Like, Giannis has won a championship. You can win a championship with Giannis. He's a guy who I still would trust to have the ball late in his hands in a game. So Giannis number 4. Luka number 5. We saw the run last year, what he can do. There are defensive concerns, sure, but what he is an offensive talent as a playmaker, even though his assist numbers are way down this series. He's not passing the ball nearly as much or as well in this series. But we know what he is as an offensive, he really even a heliocentric offensive figure, just what Luka Doncic is. So he's number 5. Shea is number 6. And I was really debating between 6 and 7 here. I have Shea 6, Ant 7. Shea is the MVP of the league. I mean, he will win MVP this year, so it's hard to discount him. But he hasn't been, I know you've Shea higher on your list, he hasn't been through the playoff wars and battles like that. And they didn't lose because of him by any stretch. They lost because Jalen Williams and some other guys didn't step up in the playoffs last year. But we still haven't seen Shea make a run. We've seen Luka make a run. We've even seen, of course, we've seen Giannis and Steph and Kawhi and Jokic. We've seen all those guys make runs. We haven't seen it yet from Shea, but I think he's a better player than Ant. So I'm putting Ant number 7 just behind Shea. And then number 8, who somehow you don't have on your list, is Jalen Brunson. I mean, he's second in the playoff in points this year, leading in clutch points in the playoffs this year, and fourth quarter points. This will be his 4th straight series averaging at least 29 points per game. What he did the other night, or yesterday, 15 points on a bum ankle, single-handedly carrying the Knicks, alongside Cat, carrying the Knicks to a win. He defies logic with how small he is and how efficient he is, and as a scorer and how he gets to the rim, as a shooter, he is as clutch as it gets. He's number 8. Tatum number 9, and then LeBron I'll still put at number 10, even though this has been a disappointing playoffs from him from an offensive standpoint. I'd be willing to replace Donovan Mitchell with LeBron, but
Okay.
that's my 10. Jokic, Kawhi, Steph, Giannis, Luka, Shea, Ant, Brunson, Tatum, LeBron.
Very good list there. Very different from mine. And I will note here, I did bump Cade Cunningham off the list. I did have to do it for it. I do have Kawhi
It's a
Leonard
man of
number one.
integrity right there. Integrity.
Yeah, I had to. I still think Cade will be back on this list. We fast forward a year, 2 years, 3 years for sure. But for the time being, to make this current draft, Kawhi Leonard number 1, Nikola Jokic number 2. I did put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander number 3, and I understand he has to prove it here. I do feel really strongly his game's going to translate on the highest level from the playoff perspective. The way that he gets to his spots, the movement, his ability in the mid-range, the way he's grown as a passer, and defensively really sets the tone for that team as well. So I like Shai. This Thunder team is deep, talented, but it all revolves around him.
It's hard to argue with Shai because he's been top 3 player in the league the past 2 seasons, really. But like a guy like Curry, who has been there, he's carried a team to the championship, and he looks as good like he's in his prime throughout this playoffs too against the Rockets. So like, how does Shai get the benefit of the doubt when he hasn't lived those playoff moments yet over a guy like Curry?
Yeah, I get the argument here, and Steph's certainly on the list, lower than you would like for sure. This is what I'll say, and I to try and make this make sense in my head here. Like, I'm not saying Steph Curry's a system player because he's not. He's absolutely not there. But the Warriors system, like, is so the shots are created for Steph in a way where a lot of these other guys we're talking about have to go out there and get them. And that's part of Steph's skill set. It is the off-ball motion. It is all these unique sets that they run, the motion, the movement, the screens, all these things. But there is a part of me that, like, it's a little bit more impressive to me when I watch Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just create an isolation, get to the mid-range, and do that than when I watch Steph Curry run off a pin down, run for 12 seconds of shot clock, and get a shot.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive system is created because of your star player. So it's like,
You're right.
That's why they create that for Curry, because he's the greatest shooter to ever touch this planet. And like the Shai, the Thunder run a lot more isolation. The Warriors aren't an isolation heavy team at all. The Thunder do, because Shai's an awesome isolation player. So it's more to like their skill set and strength. And I get it. Like Shai is better at creating looks in the mid range and getting to the rim than Curry, but Curry is the greatest shooter on earth.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right about that. I get the point there. I am being optimistic with my Shai placement here, but he's just been so good these past 2 years that I'm buying it, and I think this is the run where he earns those stripes on the overall. So maybe projecting a little. 4, I went with Luka Doncic here, and this feels a little bit high after the weekend as well, but I'm still keeping it because we've seen this guy just drag teams to finals, man. And it is that when it is 1 minute to go and you need one shot, the list of players that I want taking it above Luka Doncic is incredibly small there. And I do think the defensive concerns, I get it. The fitness, I get it. I do think that this is going to be a pretty transformative offseason from Doncic as he actually gets himself in shape, is fully healthy and all these things, but he's still a killer, man. And for that, I had to put him at 4. Number 5, I went with Giannis here. Shared a lot of your same points of him being underrated. We've seen him basically carry a team to a championship before on a Milwaukee team that, like, I didn't think was overly excellent in the grand scheme of things there when looking at the supporting cast. So he is a grade A. He is an alpha, and I do have him at number 5 on my list. Number 6, I put Jason Tatum here. And as I mentioned, I've gained a ton of respect for Tatum this season. It felt like there was always this clash of, is it Jaylen Brown? Is it Jason Tatum? Obviously, Brown won finals MVP last year. This season, there's been no doubt about it that Jason Tatum is the best player on that Celtics franchise, sets the tone defensively, an incredibly high-level rebounder. And, I mean, every area of his game, I've been impressed with him taking strides. Number 7 is
let me butt in with the Tatum. Let me butt in with the team. So you have Tatum ahead of Ant, Brunson, and Steph.
I do.
That's a problem.
So, like, this is the other point that I think for Tatum. You can put him on any single roster and it works. You can put him on any single supporting cast. I don't think that's true about any of those other guys that you named.
But here's the thing. I thought Tatum's awesome. He's the best Celtic, no doubt. There's not even a question between him and Jaylen Brown. I would have voted for Tatum to win Finals MVP over Jaylen Brown last year. The thing is, though, the Celtics can win a championship with someone else winning Finals MVP. So we're talking about a playoff run. There is no scenario where a Brunson-led team or an Ant-led team or a Steph-led team where any of those other guys right now would win Finals MVP over Tatum or over anyone else on their team. So it's like, yeah, Tatum's awesome, no doubt, but he also has more help than anyone in the league. And those other guys have to carry a way bigger load, and they've been electric doing so. So, like, for me, it's one playoff run. Tatum's awesome. He has a claim as like the 5th or 6th best player in the league, but one playoff run that you want a guy to lead your team, I'm taking all 3 of those guys over Tatum.
It's a fair point. It's a fair counter there. I can see that perspective as well. And it is fascinating, like, thinking about this now, how much like a couple days changes my perspective on this list.
It does. One weekend, seriously.
Yeah, for real. I'll transition to number 7 here, who is a guy who has won plenty of championships without winning Finals MVP, and that is Steph Curry right there. So I like Steph. I'm still locked in. He's still playing at an incredibly high level, and I also want to point out he's been pretty damn good defensively this series, like really competing on that end, creating steals, and that's an area that has certainly grown throughout his career. So I do have Steph at number 7. Number 8 is where I slotted in Anthony Edwards here, and a guy that I was too low on my initial list that I did pop in here. It's really impressive that he is like a peer of Luka Doncic. Like, I think he needs to be looked at that way. He's right in that same class, and you can have your opinions on him as a personality or any of that other things, but as a basketball player, that dude rules. He brings it on both ends. Number 9, slotting in Jimmy Butler, a guy that is not on your list here. Playoff Jimmy, man, sign me up. And there is those brief stretches where you see it, where he gets to that level. He has his flaws as well. Stylistically, he's not even a guy that I'm the biggest fan of from a basketball perspective, but there is a killer instinct that I can't help but respect. And then number 10, I dropped in Donovan Mitchell here.
I already did the Brunson rant earlier, so I don't need to do it again. I knew you weren't going to have Brunson on the list. So even when you said you slid out Cade, I knew you weren't going to have Brunson on the list. It's ludicrous. It's blasphemy not to have Jalen Brunson on a top 10 playoff list when we've seen how clutch he is. He's one of the most clutch performers in the playoffs. Like, you can say the foul grifting, foul baiting thing. Yesterday in that clutch on a bum ankle, 15 points in the 4th quarter. Those weren't shots that he was getting from the free throw line. Like, those were field goals he was generating all on his own. And that was just an incredible performance from Brunson. He can carry any team as far as, like, with enough help, he can carry a team as the centerpiece, as the best player. He is as good of a playoff performer as there is right now. And I don't get the Jalen Brunson disrespect. I know you hate him and obviously hate the Knicks, so that's a big part of it. But it's not just you. The Jalen disrespect has been going on for a couple of years now, even as we see him continue to elevate his game and continue to defy everyone's expectations.
I was fact checking myself, and I still need to fully fact check, but I believe he's won fewer playoff games than every other player we mentioned on here. Does that change your opinion at all?
No, because Jimmy Butler has been around playing the league 10 more years than him. So I don't care that Jimmy Butler's one more playoff game. At this stage of Jimmy Butler's career, he's not leading a team by any stretch. We saw him as the best player on the Heat last couple of years. They couldn't, like, last year was the 8th seed.
They went to the finals.
That was a few years ago. That was a couple of years ago, though. Last year they were the 8th seed. Or they were the 8th seed when they went to the finals, but they were the 8th seed again last year, and they got bounced in the first round. Like Jimmy Butler can't lead a team like Jalen Brunson. I get playoff Jimmy, but he needs a guy like Steph Curry to be there for him now. At this stage of his career, he's not a guy you're taking to go on a playoff run.
Interesting. So the finality of this playoff run, who is the guy that has the most to prove to you? Is it Shea?
Yeah. Out of this list, I'd say Shea, definitely. Mm-hmm. He's just the only guy who hasn't really done it. Like, even a Western Conference or Eastern Conference Finals appearance, he hasn't got there yet. And look, I think Shea's going to be awesome, and it's going to come down to more, especially against, assuming it'll be the Clippers in that next series, who I think the Clippers could really beat them. It's going to come down to more Jalen Williams and Chet and guys like Aaron Wiggins and Lou Dort. And if those guys are stepping up, then it will Shea. But yeah, Shea definitely has a lot to prove. Like, the Luka thing it was a midseason addition. They don't have a center. I want to see it more next year, even though he's been to the finals. Shea and Giannis don't have anything to prove to me. And you kind of want to see, he definitely, I mean, he's awesome. You can definitely build around him and win with him, but you want to see maybe a finals run. He's one of the few guys on the list who hasn't had a finals run. Brunson has nothing to prove to me, at least. He's been incredible. Yeah, so I would say it's probably Shea.
So much credit for winning 2 playoff series, man. I mean, I guess he's did it in Dallas too, so I got to include that a little bit with it. But like, I don't know. I think
2 playoff series, but okay, last year, come on, everybody knows if OG doesn't get hurt, they're beating the Pacers and they're in the Eastern Conference Finals, and 2 playoff series, sure, but this is the first series actually had reasonable help. This first series played alongside an All-Star. So, like, it's not like this guy is playing alongside some great players. This is the first year he's playing alongside an all-star, and they'll probably be a second-round exit to the team that's going to go to the finals. So it's like, let's give this guy his respect.
It's fair. I am a hater. I do have to wear it a little bit there, but nonetheless, we've talked plenty about the NBA. Before we get out of here, 2 games tonight. It is, of course, the Heat looking to extend their series against the Cavs. Cavs 8.5-point favorites on DraftKings Sportsbook, and then the later games, the Warriors holding 4-point favorites over the Houston Rockets. Any quick picks on these 2 games?
Yeah, I was pretty surprised that the Warriors were favored the other day without Jimmy, and of
Me too.
course they got it right, and I got it wrong. Because I just didn't expect the Warriors other guys to step up. It really for me depends if Jimmy's going to play. If Jimmy's going to play, I got the Warriors, and if Jimmy's out, I think the Rockets even this series up at 2 apiece. Because I don't think that the Warriors will do this again with that Curry performance. Like everything went right from Curry's amazing performance to guys like Buddy Hield and Brand Brzezinski and Gary Payton all stepping up and hitting big time shots. Everything went right. If Jimmy's out again, I don't think that's the case. So it's really a Jimmy whether it does play or doesn't play. It's kind of a cop out, but I'm gonna go that route. I'm leaning towards the Cavs just ending it tonight. They're just way better top to bottom. And yeah, sure, Eric Spoelstra can usually get you one, but this Cavs team is just so much better. So I'm leaning towards the Cavs wrapping it up tonight.
Yeah, I like the Cavs to cover the -8.5. I do think they have this chip on their shoulder of not being regarded as like legitimate contenders in a way that their record should dictate here. And I think they show that in game 4. They're just better than this Heat team straight up. And like Miami will rebound and figure things out in the offseason, but they just don't have the necessary talent to compete right now. And in the later game, I do think the Houston Rockets tie things up tonight. That I do like on the money line. We're looking at plus 145. Yes, in favor of Houston there. I think this has a chance to go 7. It wouldn't shock me if Golden State tries to be overly cautious with Jimmy and try and squeeze out one more here. And I do think Houston is not going to roll over by any means. So I think, as you mentioned, a lot went right in that last game for Golden State. I don't think it's going to be quite the same luck. And I think we're looking at a 2-2 series after tonight. Any final thoughts before we sign off, Sam?
No, I don't think so. It's been an electric playoffs. It really doesn't get better than this. We got a week left of the first round, and I'm very excited to talk about some of these second round matchups that we expect to line up based on how the first round is playing out. But we'll catch you later this week.
Yeah, 100% there. So appreciate you guys for tuning in here. Make sure you're keeping it locked on The Gambler. Me and Sam are going to keep ripping things down throughout this playoff run. So make sure to tap in with each of us on socials and everything else here on Fox Sports The Gambler. We'll be back talking with you next time. Peace.